By July the 20th of 1861, the Civil War was 3 months old. However, until this time, the engagements consisted of naval bombardments, minor skirmishes, and shows of force. Both Union and Confederate war watchers waited in Washington and Richmond, waiting breathlessly for an actual battle to break out and plunge the nation into a real war. Their concerns were about to become a harsh reality as nearly 70,000 troops began to converge in mid-July around the sleepy village of Centerville, Virginia, about 20 miles from Washington, D.C. It would be the largest assemblage of troops ever to gather in North America up until that date. Early the next morning, as sleepy troops were awakened and fell into columns to march to battle, civilians from the nation's capital began to stream westward to witness what they thought would be a jolly day of whipping the hapless Rebs. This parade of wagons, hacks, and carriages contained politicians, journalists, and common folk. As it was Sunday, the only day that most had off, the passengers packed picnic lunches and made the 7-hour journey, hunting for the best vantage point to watch the action. Even though many of the spectators enjoyed lofty positions, such as Senators Jim Lane of Kansas, Henry Wilson of Massachusetts, and Benjamin Wade of Ohio, as well as Congressmen Shule Colfax of Indiana, Alfred Ely of New York, and Elihu Washburn of Illinois, few were privy to the plans of the Union commander, Brigadier General Irvin McDowell. During the morning and early afternoon, this mob decided that the best place to watch the battle was the Centerville Heights. However, as it was a full 5 miles from the battlefield, they could see little of the action that was about to take place. Before them was a blank slope of farmland and fields, and from here they could see smoke rising up in the distant woodlands and hear the chatter of gunfire, but it could only guess what was actually going on. It was reported that a woman searching in the direction of the inscrutable battlefield with opera glasses speculated, "Oh my, is that not first rate? I guess we will be in Richmond this time tomorrow," after hearing a louder than normal volley of distant artillery fire. Still, unreliable news began to trickle to the spectators, who eagerly shared it amongst themselves. Small groups of soldiers traveling from the battle's general direction gave unreliable commentary of the distant action, and the crowd grew excited when an officer rode up and explained, "We've whipped them at all points. We've taken their batteries. They're retreating as fast as they can, and we're after them." At this news, a cheer went up, accompanied by a flurry of back-slapping, handshaking, and cries of "Bravo! Didn't I tell you so?" To the crowd on Centerville Heights, the Union prospects for winning the battle, as well as the entire war, couldn't have been any better. Now, in spite of this unreliable vantage point, a number of the public grew frustrated, and they ventured to find a better spot to watch the action. On a ridge a mile southeast of Centerville, they came upon the battery of Captain John Tidwell, and Tidwell's position was strictly there to support a Union flanking position, and was quiet at the time, though this did little to dissuade the crowd that it was somehow in the thick of the battle. Tidwell quickly became frustrated with the distraction, as well as the ever-swelling number of wagons and carriages that were clogging the roadways around him. Unsatisfied with this new vantage point, Senators Wilson, Wade, and Lane moved on to the Warrenton Turnpike, about a mile east of the contested stone bridge over Bull Run. Finally, they could get a good view of the battle as it unfolded. From there, they watched the maneuvering of infantry between the white billows of smoke. Now, with this group of dignitaries were about 50 civilians that included Ohio Judge Daniel McCook, and it's indicative of the relaxed mood that McCook sent word to one of his sons, who was serving in the nearby 2nd Ohio, to break action at noon and join him for a picnic lunch. At about 4 p.m., the jovial mood began to change. Word began to trickle in from retreating troops that the Union front was devolving into chaos and the battle was lost. And the Union retreat was on the verge of turning into a Union rout. The civilians were warned to get back to Centerville. Now, at about this time, Congressman Ely had decided to get a better view of the battle and move forward about 100 yards to the front line. Suddenly, a bullet struck the ground near him, and he dodged behind a tree, taking refuge there for nearly an hour. By this time, the situation had changed greatly, and he found himself surrounded by the front line of the South Carolinian infantry. After questioning Ely, the Confederate officers realized that they had quite a prize on their hands and shuttled him off to Libby Prison in Richmond, Virginia, where he would remain for the next 6 months. Tragically, Daniel McCook's son had caught up with his father, just as the Confederate cavalry were chasing the 2nd Ohio to the ground. The elder McCook witnessed his son being chased along a fence line by a mounted Confederate officer. And while the younger McCook was able to keep the Confederate at bay for a while with his bayonet, the officer eventually circled around and shot him in the back. The officer was then gunned down, and Daniel McCook was left with the task of carrying his mortally wounded son back to Centerville. Now, Senator Zachariah Chandler of Michigan vainly tried to block the road to stop the retreat, while Senator Ben Wade of Ohio picked up a rifle and threatened to shoot any soldier who ran. The Confederate shell destroyed the buggy carrying Senator Henry Wilson of Massachusetts, while the future vice president was distributing sandwiches to the fleeing troops. Congressman Washburn, who personally tried to rally the troops, noticed that he was witnessing the retreat of an army. A perfect panic had seized everybody. The soldiers threw away their guns and their blankets. Officers, I blush to say, were running with their men. During this rush, he gave his carriage to a wounded soldier and set off with the routed army on foot. London Times correspondent William Howard Russell wrote, "The scene on the Waterton Road had now assumed an aspect which was not a parallel in any description I've ever read. Infantry soldiers on mules and draft horses, Negro servants on their masters' wagons, ambulances crowded with unwounded soldiers, wagons swarming with men who threw out the contents in the road to make room, grinding through a shouting, screaming mass of men on foot, who were literally yelling with rage. There was nothing left but to go with the current that one could not stem." Politician John Taylor wrote, "The most startling aspect of the retreat was its hurry. Everyone seemed after the honor of being the first man to enter Washington. Soldiers dashed at wagons to cut loose the horses, and with two on a horse galloped off towards home. Lamented Taylor, every sentiment of shame and all sense of manhood was absent for the moment." He noted that the rout intensified as Confederate artillery began to shell the fleeing troops. Most of the troops who'd never seen combat before were horrified to witness the effect that cannons had on masses of men. Now, despite all this, the handful of civilians at Cub Run Bridge were able to evacuate the area before the majority of the routing soldiers had fled to this point. Now, contrary to most sensationalized accounts of the battle, no civilians were killed or even wounded in the rout, nor were there any military accounts that non-military personnel either contributed to or participated in the ensuing panic. When the discouraged mob returned to Captain Tidball's battery position, their bravado had been replaced with anger and frustration. Tidball wrote that he was revisited by his morning visitors, Senators Lane, Wilson, and Wade. Lane came first, now mounted on a bony gray nag, followed by Senator Wilson, hot and red in the face from exertion, in his shirt sleeves, carrying his coat on his arm. When he reached Tidball, Wilson swabbed the sweat from his brow and growled, "Cowards! Why don't they turn and beat back the scoundrels?" Last to arrive was a bedraggled Wade, dragging his coat on the ground behind him. Wrote Tidball, "As he approached me, I thought I'd never beheld so sorrowful a countenance. Wade's normally long face seemed still more lengthened by the weight of his heavy underjaws, so heavy it seemed to overtax his exhausted strength to keep his mouth shut." A vast majority of the civilians were still at Centerville Heights, far from the disaster that was unfolding, and when they received a word of the rout, they simply packed up their picnic baskets, mounted their horses and carriages, and made a prompt retreat back to Washington. Of course, the story of this generally orderly withdrawal quickly became embellished, often by the civilians themselves, and journalists who'd not been there that day published the story, nourishing the myth that the citizenry were not only incorporated with the retreating Union forces, but somehow responsible for this headlong flight. This narrative was nurtured by both the Union Army and the government, who found that it was useful in shifting blame away from their officers and soldiers. Southern journalists, most of whom weren't near the battle, christened the whole retreat as the Great Skedaddle and used it as a propaganda tool to bolster Confederate morale. While the myth of the cheering civilians enjoying picnic lunches while watching the carnage of the First Battle of Bull Run unfold, followed by a swarm of horses, carriages, genteel ladies, and wounded soldiers fleeing the battle, isn't accurate, there was truth to the idea that Americans did have a naive hope for a bloodless war followed by a quick victory and an uncomplicated resolution. And these ideas were about to change. So this week's game is the First Battle of Bull Run, and it was part of the reissue of the Blue and Gray quad game. Now, the original Blue and Gray quad was published by SPI, but it was reissued in 1995 by Decision Games. In that version, they took out Antietam, and they added both the first and second Battle of Bull Run, and we'll cover the first one today. Now, I've talked about the general rules for the Blue and Gray quad games, and I'll link to the Shiloh video that covers those rules in this video's description. But there are a couple of exclusive rules for the first Bull Run. Now, in this game, two units can stack with each other, and the attacker does have the choice of attacking with just one of those units. However, the two stacked units would defend together. Also, cavalry units can retreat before combat. If they're being attacked by infantry or an adjacent artillery, they can retreat 2 hexes before combat's resolved. And one attacking unit can enter the cavalry unit's vacated hex, but they can't select another alternate hex to attack at that time. Now, defending cavalry units cannot retreat from attacking cavalry units. Also, the game allows strategic movement, and units which begin their movement phase at least 4 hexes from the nearest enemy unit may use strategic movement, and infantry and artillery add 3 movement points to their movement allowance, while cavalry units add 4. And units using strategic movement may not move closer than 4 hexes to the nearest enemy during their movement phase. Also, in this game, artillery cannot bombard at less than 1 to 3 odds. And finally, artillery can't advance. In this particular scenario, the Confederates cannot move until game turn 3 or a Confederate unit's been attacked, whichever comes first. And Runyon's division cannot move until a Confederate unit has crossed Bull Run. Now, once that's occurred, then Runyon's free to move, although Runyon can never stack with any other units. Now, to see who wins the game, you roll a dice at the end of every game turn. Each side adds 2 for each of their units which have been eliminated. Now, if the result's 17 or more, then the armies fled the battlefield, and play stops and the opponents won the game. Now, if both armies rout in the same turn, then the result is a draw. Now, if neither army routs and the player whose units occupy or were the last to pass through both Groveton and Newmarket win the game. And if Confederate units ever occupy Centerville, they win, and if the Union ever occupies the 2 Manassas hex, they win. Okay, we're set up with the first Bull Run battle of the blue and gray quads, and I've got the Confederate units down here to the south and west of Bull Run, and the Union units are all up here around Centerville. And the interesting thing about this game is there's no reinforcements, so it's a pretty easy game. It plays pretty fast. I think usually I get to play in this in about 20 to 30 minutes is about all it takes. I don't think it would make a great beginner's game, is in that it's usually the Union gets shellacked in this, but not always. If they play it right, they can do okay. So I've got Runyon. I got to remember Runyon stays put. He can't do anything, but everybody else can. And the Union goes first, and basically they're going to be able to move around until they get an attack against the Confederates. So the Confederates can't do anything for the first few turns. 3, 4, 5. The other thing that's kind of weird about these is they move 5 instead of 6, which is a little different than the other ones. So 3, 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can go 6, 7, 8. As long as I stay, I can't go that far. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can have to stay there. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I can't stack. I always forget that I can stack in this. Again, there's a couple of these games where the Union can't stack. I think the Chancellorsville, you can't stack your Union units, but I think I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll go right here. And then 6, 8. Okay. I'm pretty much just needing units to block. I basically want to block these guys from moving up to Centerville. Six, 7, 8. And I can cross. I think I can cross these. This is the stream, or this is the creek. They say creek and stream. You can see here, stream is 1 to cross, and then creeks. I guess in this game, creeks are the bigger, and streams are the smaller. So, Club Run here would, for example, would be a stream, and then Bull Run is a creek, and you can't cross Bull Run. So, except at the bridges or fords. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got a cat that wants to play right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For some reason, when I've played this in the past, I get kind of hooked on trying to get down here and get that 2 Manassas. And so that bogs the Union down really badly. Okay, into turn 1. I think I've just been moving. These early turns will go fast. And it only goes to turn 8, so there's not going to be a lot of play in this game. Okay, turn 2. At this point, I think I'll go 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5, and then I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to hold off here because I think, let me check the rules. And I think they put the rules with this. Confederates can't move until game turn 3 or Confederate unit's been attacked. Okay, so I guess I can move there. I was going to try to I didn't know if I crossed Bull Run whether that would cause the Confederates to want to attack. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to move here and here and here. Now I'm going to assume this is not a zone of control since it's across the stream that they can't cross. I would assume this hex 1124 is in zone of control, but I'm going to operate under that thought. Okay, that's it for turn 2. And we go to turn 3. And turn 3, the Confederates will get a chance to move. But I think I'm going to go ahead and try to move my units. I could go down here and try to... I'm going to do that. And then we're going to move into place here. And with this 8 here, this guy's going to move in here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And over here, I'm going to move in here. Oh, I can only move. He's got stay put. Okay. Now, as the Confederates also want to be careful, because if I cross Bull Run there, then that's going to activate Runyon, which I don't think I really want to do quite yet. Okay, so we do have battle, and I'm going to start the battle with these two guys. 13 to 4. This is doubled because he's across the stream, so, or creek, whichever. I guess stream. 13 to 4 is 3 to 1 odds. With a 5 is a retreat, so he can retreat down here, and yeah, we'll move into position. Okay, and then here I've got a 15 to 4, so again 3 to 1 with a 1, and 3 to 1 with a 1 is a defender eliminated, so he goes to the eliminated pile, and I can move into position. Over here I've got a 7 to 2, so that's going to be 3 to 1 with a 5. Defender retreat. And here I've got a, it's going to be 1 to 1 odds, and I get a 3, so that's going to retreat him. So we've moved across Bull Run. This guy can't attack this way. Okay, now the Confederates can finally do their thing. These guys are pinned. This guy is going to be... I could go up here and attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm looking at maybe helping these guys out. Oh, I need to defend Groveton. Well, this is tough. He's going to be doing 1 to 3 odds. Let's go here. Three. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go ahead and try to use him for some sort of defensive purpose. Okay, then basically these guys have got to move. This is kind of a tough position because he can't really move there, so he's kind of pinned, but both these guys are kind of pinned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3. Actually, he could move. I think either of these guys could move across. Because he's out of zone of control. Okay, and then here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got my microphone in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here, I always forget about this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you know, oh yeah, these guys have moved into that zone of control. These guys can get 3 more. 1, 2, 3, because they get that strategic movement. I forgot about that, and they're outside of the area, but these guys have all moved through that zone of, I guess I shouldn't say zone of control, but like a zone of influence is how it works. So, okay. Now this poor guy has got, these guys are goners. He's got 2 oh, I forgot this guy also he can retreat before combat. I forgot all about that. Okay. 2, well, it's going to be more than 1 to 6 odds, or 1 to 5 odds. And so because of that, I think at least, yeah, I've got 14. Yeah, I'm just gone. So we'll just eliminate him. He'll move into place. Oh, this guy has to attack. I don't think you can attack. Yeah, I can't. This is kind of a tough situation. If I was being attacked, I could have moved out, which I should have done in the earlier turn. I should have left that before combat, so that's okay. Again, he doesn't have the odds, so he's going to be removed from play. And I will move into that position here. Here I've got a 6 to... it's going to be 1 to 3 odds with a 4. Attack or retreat, which I can use. I will move into position there. And here... not going to be able to do anything. Okay. And that ends the southern turn. Now, technically you could roll, and if you got more than an 18, was it 18? It is a 17. Okay. It's not going to really matter until I have at least 11 units. I'm not going to really worry about rolling until I do that. So we move to game turn 4. The Union gets to go. And... going to move into place here and here and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And nothing else. Okay. And okay, so here we've got 6 to 1 odds, and we roll a 3, which is a defender eliminated. Okay, down here we've got a 2 to 1 odds with a 3. Defender's going to go back 1, and we're going to go... going to stay put there. It's kind of a nice defensive position. I'm going to stay put over here. Actually, I'm not. Reason being, I'm going to go here. Well, no. He could move back. Moving into that hex that's empty is optional, so no, it's nothing to do. I'm just going to have to stay put there. And really, I could move him out because I've got Runyon over there to kind of act as guard, but don't think I'll do that. Okay. Oh, that was all my Union turn. Okay, so I guess that's everybody's gone. Confederacy will go now. And this is kind of tricky because you can't move through two. You can only move through one hex because they all have a movement of 5. I was going to say I could move into here and then surround that guy. And two, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3. That's all further he can go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And then here, okay, we'll go there. I think that'll see where it goes. Okay, we got 1-to-1 odds here, and we get a 4, so that's an attacker back. Not going to push any further there. Here we've got 8 and 9, 16, 22 to 14, 1-to-1 odds with a 3. It's going to move him back. That's about all he can go is here. And I'll stick to him. Okay. And that ends the Confederate movement. So we go to turn 5. Let's see. Still not a chance of a rout yet, so Union will get to go. They're going to have to push their advantage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Let's see, that's 3, that's 4, 5. He can move in. Yeah, he can move in. And then 1 there. And 1 there. We'll move in here. And there. Okay. So first of all, we'll make this attack at 14 to 7, 2-to-1 odds with a 4. 2-to-1 with a 4 is a defender retreat. So we'll go here. I'm going to stay put there. And then here I've got a, this is going to be a 21 to 14, so 1-to-1 odds with the 2. And he can't move there, can't move there, can't move there, can't move there, so he is eliminated. And that is the turn. I think I'm not going to move in the woods. Kind of a bad position to try to move out of, so. Okay, Confederates get to go. Here, and here, and here, and then 1, 2, 3, and here, and then that's 3. Oh, I can't go 4. 3, 4, 5. Okay, we'll just go there. Spread that line out a little bit, but okay. The Confederates get a 15, 16, 22 to It's going to be 1 to 2 odds with a 4. So they have to pull back. Here I've got a 6, a 15, so 1 to 1 odds with a 2. That does push him back. And I'll push in here. And that's it for the Confederates. Move to the next turn. We do get to roll. I'll just roll this, even though we're still 1 away. So yeah, if they had one more Confederate loss, they would lose the game, but they're not, so. Okay. Union's going to get to go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll move into this position. I'll move down here. 1, 2, is that 3 or 2? Force or 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a better way to go. Okay. Over here, nothing. Here, I'd like to go after that infantry unit there, but I can't do that. I can move here. That's a place to go. Okay. I'm going to hit as hard as I can against this guy. Here I'm going to have to go against these guys, and then here I'm going to have to go against him. So, but this guy, I can use that 6. I can soak the 6 off against this. So we're going to do that. So let's start here. I've got a 7, 14, and 15 is 29 to 12. So 2 to 1 odds with a 1. Okay, and there's that unit's eliminated. And then here I'm going to soak off the 6 to 15, 1 to 3 odds with a 6. 1 to 3 with a 6 is an attacker eliminated. That was a good use of Union resources. Okay, here I've got an 8, 15 to 16, so 1 to 2 odds with a 3 is AR. So this guy moves back, and this guy moves back. Confederates get to go, and they're going to go 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and going to pull back right there. Kind of try to keep a defensive position. Okay. We're going to start here with a 1. Now, can you hit him in the woods? I'm going to say yes, you can. I'm not going to let him Panzer Blitz or Panzer Bush these guys. So I'm going to go with the 1, and the 15 is 16 to 28. So 1 to 2 odds with a 2 is going to be a DR, so he can't do that, so he's eliminated. Okay, then here I'm going to go 1 to 2 with a 4. That sends the 7 guy back. And then 8 to 7, 1 to 1 with a 4 sends him back. And yes, I'll move into place there. And that ends the turn. Okay, so now we're going to roll for the Confederacy, and they roll a 5. And so 12 plus 5 is 17. So that's a Confederate rout. The Union gets an 8, so there's no way they could rout. So that ends the game. I think this is one of the shortest blue and gray games I think I've ever played. It can go either way. There's simply not enough units in this to really make the game last very long. There's just not a lot of combats, and a couple unlucky die rolls on either side can mean that side gets schnockered. Like I say, I've usually had the Union lose this, but then again, I've also made the mistake of trying to push down here and get this to Manassas counter and sending way too many units here, and then the Confederacy pretty much just cleans up on the real battlefield. So, okay, that was a short one, but I think you guys get the idea. Try the game out, see what you think. It's available from Noble Knight or on eBay. I've seen a couple on eBay that are pretty cheap. So I don't think the decision games are quite as good as the old SPI. I'm not sure. I think Like I say, this one could be improved a little bit. I think the second bull run, I've made a video of it. I don't know if I've published it or not yet, but it's a little bit better than this one. It's kind of fun, but that's what I've got for the week, and I really appreciate you guys watching, and we will talk to you later. Bye.